So the back half of the property is mostly forest. The majority of it's red alder forest with some mixed in cedars and hemlocks. We had a series of storms that took down some trees back here and immediately kind of messed up some areas. And so we used that as an opportunity, and we cleaned up a lot of the storm damaged trees, and then we planted a bunch of food production trees. So back here, some similar stuff that you've already seen, but other things that you haven't seen yet. So I'll walk in here. I know it looks like a jungle. In a few places, I planted these Nootka roses. Make really good rose hips. But I've got a few of those back here. This is a volunteer cascara. You can see he's really happy. Cascara makes really good berries that the native pigeons like. A lot of wildlife likes them. I really like those. And then this guy here, growing really tall, that is a rooted cutting from a Jefferson hazelnut. So he's really big and happy. Really happy. And then got another one right there. That's another Jefferson hazelnut. And then beyond that, that other tall one right there, that's another Jefferson hazelnut. Quite a few hazelnuts. They're growing really, really well back here. They don't get that much attention. Really happy with them. And then at the same time I planted those T0613 timber chestnuts, I planted a bunch back here, and I think this one was a replacement for one that died. So this one's actually a layeroka chestnut, but a lot of the other T0613s are doing pretty well. There's this guy here, pretty good. This one here, also looking pretty good. Nice and tall to that 5-foot tree tube. Then we have, hopefully I don't disturb any hornet nests. I know there's a couple back here. This is another T0613. This one's not doing as great, but it is above its tree tube this year, so I'm pretty happy with that. And, oh yeah, here's one of my little ornaments. You can see there's a nice little friend right there in that hazelnut tree. That is a bald-faced hornet nest. It's not super big, but it is still alive and active. And then I've got, I'm trying not to shake it too much as I go past it. It's my friend. And I've got another Nootka rose here. And this year, the blackberry vines on here produced so much berries. And as we were picking berries, I discovered a nice big bald-faced hornet nest in here, if you can see that. They were not too happy that we were shaking their bushes around. So, lots of bald-faced hornets this year. But we'll go this way. We've got, this is another timberform chestnut, really well. Grew up above its cage this year. And then down here, this one doing very well. That guy, you can see the top of his cage and how far he went out of it. He really put on some amazing growth. Very happy with that one. Here's an example of a fail. You can kind of see a little cage. There's not much happening in that one. In fact, I think it's dead. Yeah. That one's not doing too well. And I have up here another T0613 doing pretty good. And there's another, this one's kind of hard to see, but you can see that guy right there. Another T0613. I'm just going to call that one the timber variety for now. There is another timber variety that we'll talk about, but for now we'll just call that one the timber variety. Here's another T0613. Doing well. Walk through poke vines. And down here, to see some of the other hazelnuts I planted. Another Nootka rose. Another timber form chestnut. And then we've got this timber form chestnut doing well. And then I'll hop on this big old cedar log that's here. Alright, so this is another cutting of, I don't remember if this is Jefferson. I've got several varieties. I have York, I have Yamhill, I have Theta, and I have Jefferson. So those are cloned cuttings. And I made I rooted cuttings of those. Well, I didn't really root them. I layered. I multiplied them using layering, and I got a bunch of those. So this one's, it's hard to see the angle, so I'm standing up on this big stump, but this one's a good, probably 6 feet tall now, doing really well. That I just planted, year before last. There's another one right there. Planted that one year before last. And there's another guy right there. If you can see him, he's that big white hazelnut right there. Doing really, really well. Taking over down there. That one's taller than I am, it's probably 7 feet tall. And then there's one right there. Oh, and I planted a clumping bamboo. That one I got at super discount. It was it's a bamboo that is some type of clumper. It's probably a Fargesia genus, but I'm not sure. They were unsure what it was. They lost the labels for it, so they sold it as a discount item. So I got that there. Then there's a hazelnut, little hazelnut there, and a little hazelnut there. If you can kind of see that one right in the middle of the camera there. So basically all over this whole hillside as it goes down to the path down there, I've got hazelnuts planted everywhere. Most of the hazelnuts are layered. I do have a few seedling hazelnuts that the Stellar's Jays stole hazelnuts and stashed them places, and we found them growing up in various random spots, and I dug them up, potted them, grew them in a pot for a year, and then planted them out here. They're doing really well, but they're all through there, so I pretty much have everything as dense as I want it to be on this hillside. I know it looks like an absolute jungle, but there's lots of food-producing trees and shrubs all through here. Probably about as dense as I want for now anyway. I'll have to see how things grow. But that's everything on this side of the little hill here. We call this Chestnut Hill because there's a lot of chestnuts up here. Here's another timber chestnut doing really, really well. And again, I'll put all the dates that these were planted in a caption below. Another Nootka rose. Another timber form chestnut. Growing really well. Really putting a lot of height. Another timber form chestnut. Doing great. And another Nootka rose here. And we're going to continue on down the path here. This one really shot up this year. Timber form chestnut. This one put on, I think, almost 4 feet of height this year. Really explosive growth this year. And then Nootka rose, timber form chestnut. So the second year after I planted these T0613s back here, ones that are in the tree tubes, I had a bunch of extra, another type of chestnut that I planted called layeroka. So the layeroka, I just planted them with no protection, no tree tubes, no anything. And there's this guy here, you can see him. This is it right here, growing up. It's about 7 feet tall. Doesn't have any protection from deer or anything. And it got nibbled on a little bit last year. now it's really tall. It's doing really, really good. There's another one. This one over here, the deer were a little harder on. You can see it's not nearly as tall. It's kind of buried in the weeds too. This one doesn't get as much sunshine, so that could be another part of it, but still put on a good 2.5 to 3 feet of growth this year. Did really good. And this nuka rose looks really good. And oh, here's another hazelnut. That one's got a tube around it. That one's really tall. That one just really reached for the sky. I'm probably going to take the tube off of that one soon. That doesn't really need it anymore. I think he's well above the browse height. I've got another few in there by that hornet nest. So this is another area in the woods back here where we had a lot of storm damage, and we decided to plant a bunch of food producing trees. So first off, this little section here, this is a bunch more chestnuts that I planted. So this is another timber variety. So the other one was T0613. This one's called layeroka, and these were all, started from seed. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when I'm starting trees from seed, most of the time what I'm doing is I have a planter box. It's like a wooden box I made out of red alder boards that's 4 foot by 4 foot by 3 feet deep, just filled with soil. And then I will start tree seeds in there and let them grow for a whole year. And then the winter, at the end of that year in the winter, I take a side off of the box and I gently extract the trees and their roots. And then I plant them out during that winter, that kind of fall to winter season. Usually somewhere between, December and February is when I do that. So these chestnuts here, these are basically 1 year behind the T0613. These are the layeroka. So, let's say, I don't remember what year it was, but let's say it was 2021, I planted the T0613. In 2022, I planted the layeroka. And so this is 1 year behind, another timber form. I've got a bunch of these back here. The layerokas I originally planted without any protection, and they did good most of the time, but then they did start to get a little bit of, well, a lot of bit of chewing on them from the deer in this area. I guess the deer like to come through here, but there's 2 layerokas here in this cage that are next to each other. I had a good amount. I planted, I don't know, probably 20 some layerokas in this area. And so then this year in the spring, what I decided to do when they started to leaf out was I decided to protect the ones that were growing the best with some cages. Now, so far, they're doing really good, and the deer haven't really bothered them very much. This little guy right here, he did get chewed on a bit by a deer. He's pretty ragged and short, but a lot of these look really great. This one looks good, although I don't know what's going on with the leaves at the top here. Maybe it's just decided to stop producing anything. I don't know. But, that one, you can see this one here, looks pretty good. Got a bit of, oh, actually, yeah, he's got a bit of deer damage on him. Oh, actually, no, you know what? This is not a chestnut. This is a cascara tree. But that one does look good, but it is chewed on a bit. Here's the chestnut behind it. Not nearly as nice. But this is a chestnut right here. This is a chestnut, and it's as tall as me. Probably a little over 6 feet. Not saying I'm 6 feet, but I'm almost 6 feet. And it's a little bit taller than me. Here's another one. So maybe I didn't need to put the tubes on there, but last year, seeing the damage that I did, I decided better to be safe than sorry with all the time investment and energy I've put into this. Here's another one doing pretty good. And there is one here. You can kind of see it sticking out. I probably need to cut this fern back a bit. It's probably stealing a lot of its nutrients and water. That's another one. layeroka. It'll be interesting to see how the layerokas and the T0613 compare in overall form, habit, wood quality, nut size. Here's another one right here that's doing well. No tube on it, no protection. But there's still a bunch in here. This one has been eaten. The deer do eat them. They don't seem to love them, but I think in years like last year when there wasn't a whole lot of good stuff to eat, they definitely came for them. I think that's just about it for the chestnuts back here. Then I have these sections here. These are definitely protected. They have deer netting up around these. It's like a 7-foot kind of just chintzy plastic netting. You can kind of see right here. Nothing too fancy. Held up through last winter just fine. And this keeps the deer from eating apple trees, aka deer crack, or deer candy, people call them. Deer love apple trees, and they would not let these survive. So I had these protected really well this past year, and I thought I was doing everything right, and I was doing really well. And then winter came. We had some pretty long-lasting, heavy, wet snow, and half of these apple trees I lost. Not to deer, not to snow damage. I lost half of these apple trees to voles. Voles came and ate the bases, completely ate the roots of some of them. There were tunnels at the bases of every single one of the trees. I lost about half of them. I think I planted 136 apple trees back here. And those apples were started from seed that was mostly from Northern Spy apple, mostly seeds from those. There are probably a few others in there mixed in, but mostly from Northern Spy. And, you know, they were being pollinated by many other types of apple trees. I have King, Northern Spy, Winter Banana, Gravestine, Chehalis Giant. There's a bunch of different apple trees that probably were pollinating them, so it's going to have, you know, a mix of genetics of many of those. But, you know, these apple trees are doing pretty good. After the vole damage, I made these little tubes out of this netting stuff to put around the base of all of these apple trees, hopefully to keep them from being damaged again. But you can see this guy's doing great. Way, way up there. It's probably 8 feet tall. And I've got several of them here. There's this little apple tree here. Another one there. One up. Another one there. So I did lose half, but half of 130 whatever trees is still quite a few trees, and more than I'm gonna ultimately keep in the end. So things are gonna be fine, but still it was quite heartbreaking dealing with that. But, you know, some are doing good, some are doing not so good. This one's doing really great, really tall. There's another one over here in the corner. Looks good. That looks really nice. And then there's some like this that are not so nice. Powdery mildew. Leaves getting eaten by bugs and stuff. Not super great, but I'll care for them until they're too weak to care for anymore, and then things like that one will take over and get to dominate this area. There's another really nice one. That one's also really nice. The thing I'm most excited about with these apple trees is I would love to see some variation in variety, growth habit, number of apples produced, flavors and colors, you know, with all the diverse genetic exposure it has to those other varieties. I think it'd be pretty cool what results. Another one right here. Oh, and I forgot to mention this guy right here. This is either a nectarine or a peach. We're not really sure. there were a bunch of seedlings that started coming up in the garden where we were feeding chickens waste nectarines and peaches and fruits and stuff from a fruit stand in town. We were feeding them all that stuff. And a bunch of those pits of, some kind of stone fruit, they all started growing up in the garden. So we dug them up from the garden and put them in my planter box. And they've grown really well, except this past year, they dropped the leaves that were on there. They were having the issue, but there was like this, I don't know if it's a virus or a bacterial infection on the leaves. They became all thick and puffy and really weird and pale looking. The leaves are very strange, and you can see this one looks great right now. But it probably would have grown more this year if it didn't have that setback with that, whatever that disease was. But they do look good. I don't know if they'll ever make fruit, but they're cool looking. So if they do well, they get to stay. If they don't, they don't, Or if this apple tree next to this one does better and produces delicious apples, then that'll go, All right, next I have another section that has a bunch of things, but it got planted out kind of in two phases. All right, so that was that section we just finished there. We were just inside. So now we'll go to this other area. This area is larger. It's got a lot more stuff in it. And this side planted out in two phases because I actually didn't have enough trees planted or started from seed that year when I first planted back here to fill it all up. And I kind of knew that was going to happen. So I had tons of apple trees that I started from seed. And I planted most in this area. Still, lost half, like I said, which was terrible. But then the year after that, I started a bunch of Italian prune plums from seed. And the Italian prune plums did really well. And I'll try to tell the difference here. The leaves do have somewhat of a similar appearance, but definitely got some decent apple trees over here. None of the apple trees actually are, well, most of the apple trees are not doing as well as what's over there in the other section, but there's still some pretty good ones. But had a lot of vole losses. But, this little guy here, this is an Italian prune plum. So this is its, I think this is its first year. Yeah, I planted these last winter, so this is its first year in the ground right here. Looks really good. This is an apple. This is a thornless blackberry that we made the mistake of buying. My wife wanted to get rid of. So we took it and put it back here. If it feeds the wildlife, I'm happy with it. So it's doing well. It looks pretty good. Got transplanted in a very hot time of the year, but I think it'll survive. Got another apple tree here. Looking good. This is a red elderberry here in the middle. I kind of cut it back as whenever it starts eating other things. But next to it is another one of those. There's another one of those peaches or nectarines or whatever the heck it is that we grew from seed. Another apple tree here. Looking good. Apple tree not looking so good. It's kind of ragged looking. There's a lot of damage on it. Some of them just are not very healthy. This is another peachy nectarine thing. Looking really good. And then I was really happy. This spot just by itself decided to grow a lot of fireweed. Fireweed's really nice. I think I've mentioned in some of my hunting videos that fireweed makes great tea, and we really love fireweed. So we've got a nice little patch of fireweed here growing, and it's finished flowering for the year, but I'm hoping this grows vigorously and strong year after year. It's always good to have a good source of fireweed. And then in this corner, got a really good looking apple tree, just really reaching for the sky. Really healthy growth habit. And then next to it is another good one right here. Really keeps going up. That one's probably 9 feet tall. And then in this section here, I've got another good apple tree. And this was a cascara that got snapped in half by the storm. But I cut it off, you can kind of see right there, and left it. I didn't cut it to the ground, hoping that it would, start coming back like this, and it did. So it's coming back like a nice little cascara bush. Hopefully it makes lots of nice berries for the birds soon. And I've got another apple tree here, doing really good. And then in this corner, there's lots of apple trees that are just not doing so great. So you can see this guy covered in powdery mildew. He's not super happy. This one here, just diseasey, not healthy looking. But I'm okay with that because there's enough other good looking ones nearby. There's this one doing pretty good. A little bit of weirdness on his leaves, but growing very strong and healthy. Another one right there next to it. A little diseasey, but still reaching for the sky, growing pretty strong and healthy. This is another thornless blackberry we planted here. This one's not doing as good as that one closer to the front, but I'm okay with that. I don't need a million of these things back here. Probably gonna have to cut them back anyway. Another not so great apple. Decent apple right here. Another decent apple here, about my height, right around 6 feet. And then there's this weird thing. So this is kind of very stabby. This is a type of blackberry. It's supposed to be white. I think it's called polar bear or snowball or something like that. It's kind of weird. It didn't really do much in the garden when we had it planted in the garden. We stuck it back here. Everything died on it. We thought, oh, well, it's done. And then it sent up these two big long canes. So the canes before the rain we had were just, really, really tall canes. They were just going way up there, probably 7 or 8 feet tall, unsupported, going straight up in the air. I might regret planting this thing because the thorns on it are pretty nasty, but maybe it'll make good wildlife food. I don't know. If not, I'll have to spend some amount of time trying to eliminate it, I guess. But that's what I'm gambling. We've got some more, pretty small apples, but yeah, they're okay. More of those. Another pretty small apple there. Oh, and this is my favorite kind of fern. I don't know why I like it so much, but this is called deer fern, and it's just got really cool fronds. These might be the reproductive fronds, I think. Here's the regular fronds. They're just something I really like about this type of fern. Really cool. Another apple. And we've got, this is another one of those peachy nectarine things. Not really sure which. Some crappier apples. Diseasier looking. Not great. And then this is actually one of those this is one of those Italian prune plums. And so it's small, but I expect it to be small. This is its first year in the ground. It's not super huge. This is another Italian prune plum. Looks really good. First year in the ground. It's got really great, healthy looking growth. There's, baby cascaras coming up everywhere back here. So at the worst, let's say all of my apple and prune plum dreams fail. This will be really great habitat back here, and I'll be quite happy with having lots of cascara back here. Decent apple. Kind of crappier apple. Got another crappier apple. Another crappier apple. This is a Italian prune plum, just getting started, but doing well. Another Italian prune plum, looks great. A lot of growth this year. This one is an apple that survived Volpocalypse. And this is also an apple that survived Volpocalypse. This is a really good looking prune plum put on huge amounts of growth. Really looks great. And this is the biggest of those peachy nectarine things. Really tall. This one's about 10 feet tall. Looks really, really great. And the crazy thing with these is they grew to probably like 5 feet tall the first season that I planted the seed. And then this one, you know, doubled that the very next season. So really great growth on those. But most of the rest of these are Italian prune plums. But you can see their growth, you know, really good growth on these. This one doubled in height, looks really good. This one doubled in height. Great growth on that. Well, not maybe not doubled because I can see where that's how tall it was just from the first year. So then it grew that much more this year. That one looks great. Really good looking. I don't know what the long-term outcome with these Italian prune plums are going to be, but these seedlings started from seeds of that Italian prune plum look really amazing. Just great growth. I've watered these twice this year, once in June and once in July. And I may not water them again for the rest of the year. We just had a 2-inch rainstorm. There's one little raggedy guy in that corner, but he's there with a big red elderberry, so I might just let that be the red elderberry's corner. This one looks good. This one looks great. That one's looking pretty good. This guy's not looking super great. He's got something weird going on with the leaves, but the majority of them are doing wonderful. This was the tallest of them. You can see this one didn't put on a lot of growth. Pretty much stayed about the same height, but man, did he leaf out. He is covered in leaves. So he's really doing his thing, hopefully putting on a lot of root growth. And I got a few more back here. This one looks really good. Turning into a prune plum bush. That guy's not doing super great. He's pretty tiny, but that's okay. So, yeah, that about does it, I think, for the tree tour and the tree progress update. I'm going to try to do this every year, maybe around this time, and update everybody on what the trees are looking like. I started when I first planted them doing kind of picture updates, but yeah, then I kind of got too busy and forgot, but until next year for the tree update. Have a great day, everyone. Bye. Sorry, cancel that. Forgot one more thing to update you on. So these are, I have two of them. Well, there's actually more seedlings there than just one, but this is a blue elderberry, and we don't have a lot of blue elderberry on the property or in the area. In the immediate area. But blue elderberry, it's really great medicinal berries to have, and I really wanted some. I tried growing seedlings bought from the conservation district, and they did terribly. They all died. I did buy some from a different source the next year, and they're doing okay. About half of them died. But one thing I tried is I got some blue elderberries from some blue elderberry bushes in the farther away regions where they grow, and I planted them, and the first year they didn't grow at all. Nothing popped up. And so I was like, okay, what can I do maybe to stress the seeds to germinate? So then I took a torch to the soil surface where the seeds were, and I just kind of ran the torch on the top of the surface, like, you know, simulating a wildfire. And I did that to half the pots. And the half of the pots that I exposed to fire like that, they all germinated. And the ones that survived in the pots, it wasn't a whole lot of pots. I think it was like, 6 pots I had that didn't germinate the first year. Second year I torched 3 of the pots. They grew. One of the pots kind of died later, but 2 of them stayed strong. And so I planted one here. You can see how tall that is. That's a 4 foot tall. I think it's 4 feet, or is that 5 feet? No, this is the 5 foot. That's 5 foot tall welded wire fence that's around it. So, you know, grew a lot this year. I planted one there. Planted the other one right over here in case they need, you know, pollination. But they look really great, doing really well. Now I'll have to be careful with so much red elderberry in the area that I make sure that it doesn't get taken over by red elderberry, and then I'm here caring for red elderberry when I think it's a blue elderberry. But they did really well. There's, you know, it was several seeds that germinated in that pot, so there's probably actually like 3 to 4 seedlings in there, but one of the seedlings obviously is dominating and doing well. So I have 2 blue elderberries, very successfully grown from seed by using the method that I used, torching using flames on the soil surface of the pots. And they were little, you know, 1 gallon pots. They weren't huge pots. So they look good. I'm pretty happy with that. You don't need a lot of blue elderberries. You only need a couple bushes to give you all the berries you need. And those look really good. So quite happy with that. Now I can say goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your year. See you next year when we do another tree review. And if anyone has any growing suggestions, ideas for chestnut projects, or ideas for good food trees to grow in the Pacific Northwest, you know, particularly in Western Washington, love your ideas. I'm always looking for new food trees to grow. It seems like chestnuts are doing well for me. Apples are doing well. Hazelnuts are doing well. And that's about it. I've got a few other things I've tested that haven't done well, but those seem to all be doing pretty good for me. Anyway, bye-bye.